A Roof Without Walls, Benjamin Bloom's Taxonomy and the Misdirection of American Education. We want to skip through this part right here, but one thing that the author says is that the first thing a consultant says is, since you're college teachers, none of your course objectives should be at the first level of the taxonomy. So this was a university that was kind of, they're like, what, is that true? So he then addresses Bloom's and does a really good job with this. One of the things he outlines in his arguments are these 4 points: that Bloom's taxonomy, first published in 1956, has become a dogma of the American colleges of education. Because of the different ways that educators are trained in America, the impact on Bloom's taxonomy has been greater in the high school and K through 12 areas than in post-secondary education. He also makes the argument that Bloom's taxonomy has been used to devalue basic skills education and has promoted higher order thinking. So that's been his big argument throughout this paper, is the basic skills have been devalued. And he gives a nice little section right here. Dr. Benjamin S. Bloom, editor of Taxonomy of Educational Objectives, worked and taught at the University of Chicago for the bulk of his 5-decade career. In 1940, he came to work with the Board of Examiners, an arm of the university created in 1931, and designed to remove the burden of evaluation from professors. So at this point, he begins to start creating what is known as his Bloom's taxonomy. The taxonomy was a collective product of 34 educators, psychologists, and school examiners who met from 1949 to 1953, beginning with informal discussions of the APA conference in 1948 in Boston. It is often forgotten that Bloom's taxonomy was intended to be only one part of a 3-part system. The 3 domains which Bloom and his panel wished to classify were cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. His committee never published a guide for the psychomotor domain, though other authors have attempted. So basically, Bloom's is incomplete. He has the handbook, and then he gives him more of a history lesson here. Alright, let's continue that. He gives a really good history lesson of Bloom's. Examples of Bloom's in early education are easy to come by, even down to the level of preschool instruction. Success to Guide at the Crayola website, which summarizes Bloom taxonomy, is most likely not directed at the post-secondary educational market. For the most part, the evaluations customarily made by an individual are quick decisions not preceded by very careful consideration of the various aspects of the object. For purposes of classification, only those evaluations which are or can be made with distinct criteria in mind are considered. How can a fundamentals deprived student be expected to succeed in any course built around higher order thinking skills? What would constitute a good or right answer to a fact-free opinion question? In the absence of adequate data, the best answer, as we all know from experience, is to confirm whatever the teacher believes. Smoking in restaurants is bad, not because the student knows anything about the scientific research into secondhand smoke, but because the teacher wrinkles her nose when the subject comes up. So I really like that paragraph right there. It says, when the absence of fact is present and we're looking at opinion based, the only correct answer is the opinion of this teacher, which is true usually at lower levels. Higher order thinking is hard. In Book 7 of his Republic, Plato said that real higher order education in what he called the dialectic, couldn't start until the student was 30 years old and had mastered conventional wisdom. So how can we as educators expect the highest level of Bloom's to a 19 to 20-year-old student? Now, Plato's demand that a student be 30 seems excessive, but it emphasizes the gravity of higher learning. Critical reasoning isn't about blind disbelief any more than it is about blind belief. So, I like this article, just a real quick introduction, but it shows you how Bloom's was introduced, how it was created, and how it spread. It also shows you that Bloom's has some weaknesses which include higher order thinking for younger students, as well as basic skill instruction when we're always stressing higher skills. Really good history paper for Bloom's. So if you ever want to read it, you can. Thank you for listening.